A report done by the United Nations Populations Fund in 2013 warns of the staggering amount of teenage pregnancies in Namibia. According to the UNFPA report, a staggering 46,000 girls left school due to falling pregnant. That's 127 girls who fall pregnant every day. The phenomenon of high teenage pregnancy is not isolated to Namibia. Globally, complications during pregnancy and birth is the second cause of death for girls between the ages of 15 and 19. The implications of these numbers is quite significant to the well-being of mothers everywhere. And every year over 3 million girls undergo unsafe abortions. However, the case in Namibia is particularly gruesome for another reason, that of baby dumping. Over the last 4 years, the media has been inundated with reports on abandoned fetuses that have been left in riverbeds, garbage bins and school toilets, some being flushed down the toilet only to reappear at sewage plants. These discarded fetuses are between hours and a few days old, and they are a symptom of a growing number of teenage mothers who are ill-equipped to raise children. The term neonaticide is an appropriate word for this act. The perpetrators are most often young, poor, single and under the age of 19. Neonaticide is a misunderstood symptom of many teenage pregnancies. With us in studio tonight is Rosa Namises, an activist and veteran spokesperson for women's rights. Rosa will share with us the negative social and economic effects adolescent pregnancy can have on girls, their families and communities. Good evening viewers and welcome to One Exclusive. According to the UNFPA, there are about 40,000 girls who have left school due to falling pregnant. 40% of these girls are under the age of 15. Now with us in studio we have Rosa Namises, a veteran activist and someone who's been busy with teenage pregnancies and unwanted pregnancies for a very long time. Welcome, Rosa.
Thank you.
Now Rosa, tell us, in your years of experience, teenage pregnancy is not a new thing, but the numbers are quite staggering. 127 girls a day leaving school. What's causing all this teenage pregnancy at the moment?
Actually, as you said, it's not a new thing, but it's new in the sense that it is now being brought up to the public and people become aware of it and people are noticing it. Sometimes the pregnancy comes within the family because there is incest. Sometimes it's very secret. Also, it becomes a rape when the underage little girl is raped and the pregnancy happens. And then also the other contributing thing is that there has been so much need that I don't really know how that manifests itself, that the sugar daddy phenomenon has come in.
And let's just touch on that. The girls who are falling pregnant at such a rate are generally girls from a poorer socioeconomic background. Girls who don't readily have opportunities or as much as other girls, for instance. So let's talk about the sugar daddy phenomenon. I mean, the consent is a difficult thing. Under the age of 18, yes, you can still say yes or no to sex. But under the age of 15, it's a completely different story, isn't it?
It is a very different story. But I think the pregnancy, we might be shocked that both poor-off and well-off girls are getting pregnant. The well-off, of course, handles their situation very differently. They have health care available at hand. They can go to South Africa, do the abortion, and come back and continue with life. But the real poor girls go through a different trend, and especially the sugar daddy issue. Because of the need, suddenly emerges an uncle in the house that is friends to the family, or there is a married man that meets the girl on the way to school or the neighborhood, the many connections.
So these men are offering them a way out of life
offering a way
in exchange for sex or a relationship or whatever?
No, actually, I think the men really don't go for a relationship. It's really just abusing the power that they're having and the status that they're having and the money that they're having. So the offer is the gate. So when he offers, he further takes the girl into making sex or having sex with her. And I mean, it's not only the men out there, it's even the teachers, you know. It starts with carrying the books to the teacher's house, some of the teachers really.
The people who are taking advantage of these young girls are people who are supposed to be protecting them, in a way.
Actually, people that are in that very position to care without any payback. Because this is children, they get enticed by nice cars, they get enticed by a cell phone. I mean, this is their time with technology.
They're making these decisions from a very immature point of view.
The girls are really children. Actually, the children are not much exposed. When I talk to the children, they don't even maybe understand what has happened. You can imagine somebody being molested actually from 8 years old, doesn't even understand what has happened, but that is the life that this child has been put into. And when they are a little bit bigger, that's what they want. That's when they are looking for, because that's all they know. They don't know a different relationship. They don't think it is bad. They have grown with it. The elderly person has introduced it to them, and so it be. So the children are children that are in need of protection, that are in need of care, proper care, and then in need of just having trustworthy elders in their community. It's very rare that their peers are impregnating the children.
So it is mostly, like, we've got the same idea here. It's mostly older men who are responsible.
Yeah, it's mostly.
And before we touch on the actual dangers that some of these women face, let's talk about the medical implications for a teenage pregnancy.
Oh, for a teenage pregnancy, it's both the baby and the mother-to-be. For the mother-to-be, the body is not fully developed.
Not ready.
And as much as the body is not fully developed, there comes big complications, to the extent that this little girl can die, actually. Because they might not be in time for cesarean, for an operation. And most of these things are also in the villages out there. So they might not be following maternity sessions.
So they're not getting maternal vitamins like folic acid?
If they are not in the nearby places, sometimes, and then because this situation also concealed. So because it's concealed, you are not allowed even to go out. It might be that you are exposing the family and so on. So sometimes you have to stay home and under the care and the eye of the elders. So you might lose that. And you might certainly also develop maybe a heart condition, high blood pressure. You might develop any other additional thing that goes commonly with pregnancy, because you don't take in proper vitamins, proper food, and maybe you don't take in proper rest. Because these children, mind you, they are children, so they don't understand what has happened to them. So
what the body needs at that
and
stage.
So on. So, and sometimes also they can injure themselves, But for the baby, it can be a premature baby. It can be a baby with maybe not everything is well developed with the baby. I know of a little girl now who's struggling with a baby who has not been fully developed, and the mouth is not opening up. So many dysfunctional things can happen. The baby's lungs are not ready. So many things. And as a result, those are health conditions.
So these girls, as teenagers, you being a teenager already puts you at risk for a dangerous, birth. But then on top of that, we get these girls who are concealing the births from their parents, which even adds to the medical risk.
Yeah.
But let's talk about this concealment of birth.
Concealment of birth can happen in different ways. Sometimes they tie things, and they have developed different strategies to conceal the birth. And that's where you realize how not aware the children are when they feel that they're pregnant. Sometimes they think this pregnancy will never come out. When maybe by chance, if somebody asks, they will say, I am not pregnant. And so when this baby grows, they tie the baby down, the tummy down, using all sorts of things to tie the stomach, and then also sometimes wearing big jackets and so, and then withdrawing also from society and also trying to drink to abort some medicines, very strange mixtures of medicines to conceal. And then if all of those does not work, then they give birth and dump the baby.
Now, before we get to, well, the term is probably neonaticide or infanticide is a better term. I just want to talk again about the concealment of birth. Now, I know with the Christian culture, it's very taboo to have a child out of wedlock, which adds to this concealment of birth thing. You know, it's a shame. The kid inside me is a shame. But there are other African traditions that also, you know, see it in the same light. Do we have that problem in Namibia?
I think with all these increased pregnancies of the young girls, I think somehow Namibians have become, not that the pregnancy has become a normal thing for them, but I think having sex with these little girls have become acceptable. And as a result, when the pregnancy comes, it is somehow a shame that they will hide away because of the way the person has fallen pregnant, but somehow little bit it is allowed to happen. And that is the problem when people allow this. But in the cultures, I know that that was Christianity, but when little girls, when it was a small amount where little girls would fall pregnant, but that was also something that culture has been spoken to because the girls have to go to initiation. And when they come of age and they have the first menstruation, they would be sent for initiation. And that was one preventative method for sexual education. And especially I'm speaking from the clan that I am, the tribe that I'm coming from, where they put it in the kayomnis, that's what they would say. So you are taken into the hands of the elders and they explain all the stories to you. And as a result, it was somehow a little bit better. I know of other cultures where in the olden days you'd be given some few lashes. Somebody digs a hole when you're pregnant, put you there, and you're beaten up and so on. So many things. Sometimes nowadays when the girls are pregnant, in some of the cultures that I know, people take the little girl and let her give birth and send her to the nearest town because people have to pay for those damages. But now everybody is a friend to the other person, and culturally these things are even going to the traditional court. It goes there, but you never see the payment.
I want to touch on that again. So according to you, there are initiation ceremonies that historically took place within our cultures in Namibia that actually protected the womanhood to a certain extent, that would make sure she is of the right age before she's impregnated. And now, as you say, in modern day living, it's a little bit difficult to control those things.
It's no longer, and I'm confidently speaking from the culture that I identify with, which is the Nukwe Damaranama cultures, where the Damara and the Nama people were taking the young girls into initiation in the olden days, more days, but hopefully now it's supposed to be 3 days, maybe Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, because they go to school and then they get taught by elderly. And the elderly were literally talking about sex education and they're telling the girls that. So we have made a little bit of change to say, now we have to tell the girls that it's important to go to school. This is not very dangerous. It will happen every month, and then you need to stay away from men. Even nowadays, talk about HIV. That is the best, because that's where the first education was happening, but it's not happening, I must say, Alna. It's really a pity that in modern life, the girls get their menstruation at school, and the poor life skills teacher must provide a sanitary pad, and then that it is. And of course, the girls know also now that menstruation is menstruation, so for them, they feel I'm big now in their own education, in their own information, and therefore maybe not even share. Many children also don't have any more grandparents or parents to share with, so they go unprotected, uninformed into the program. Yeah.
I know in your experience, we tend to demonize the unwed mother. But I know in your experience with your shelter, there have been times where these teenage mothers-to-be have been in exceptional danger from their partners. Can you touch a bit about that? Is that something that happens?
Yeah, I think many pressure. The one thing is, I don't know whether the men, when they go on and have sex with these little girls, or how they not including pregnancy. So because they have not been thinking about that possibility, the first danger is they demand that they go for abortion.
Because he's having now a child out of wedlock with another,
Yeah.
so that's a threat
or
to his family.
status or his marital life, family. Many things become suddenly so important. And also that he knows that it's an underage child, and so this pregnancy will be public and families
Shame
and
him.
everybody, and for his shame. So his life, his passion is such now enrolled, engulfed, that my status now, he's very passionate about that, to the extent that he would ask the young little girl to abort, and if not, to take her literally to places where she can. So that's the first health risk that she's going through. Then also when there is this relationship, sometimes there is violence involved with it. They get violated very much, and sometimes when they resist a little bit, they get beaten up. The other danger that can come is they are thrown out of the relationship, and then it's very emotional, traumatic. They're not given any support. They're
discarded.
Totally left there in the cold. And that becomes very much a matter of trying and finding a way, become depressed, become suicidal, become really just withdrawn, and to the extent that the best solution is then for me to dump the baby.
Yeah.
And
I'm going to stop you there.
Okay.
Guys, we're going to have a quick ad break, and when we get back, we're going to talk about baby dumping, in particular neonaticide and infanticide. Next up on One Exclusive. According to a report by the Legal Assistance Centre, the perpetrators of neonaticide were often poor, socially isolated, full-time caregivers who were victims of domestic violence or had other relationship problems. Are these parents unfortunate, evil, selfish, or mentally ill? We speak to Rosa Namises to discuss the things that cause neonaticide. Is teenage pregnancy the only role player? Who do we blame, and how do we protect the life of an unborn child? Watch One Exclusive after the break. Welcome back, viewers. Now, the term we've been using to describe what's been happening in the media lately is baby dumping. But baby dumping does tend to imply a demonization of the mother. The term that we should be using for baby dumping is neonaticide, which means that the fetus is being discarded within 24 hours of birth. The other form is then infanticide, which is anything from 0 to 6 months. Now tell us, Rosa, neonaticide, it's something that's happening a lot and people are getting very angry about it. What's going on?
You get really distraught and really very fearful, also very lonely, and not only very lonely, but also panicking to the extent that you start to think about your mother, that you have not informed your father if he is around, and about your teacher.
Now you're stuck with this baby.
With all these things. So a further concealment is that you discard, so that it's not linked to you at all.
Yes.
So that you come out away from it and be taking on the normal
and I
life.
think a lot of people don't realize, despite just, the baby coming and you giving birth, there's a lot of psychological things that are happening in your body. A lot of these mothers, unwed mothers, not prepared for the birth, suffer from postpartum depression and traumatic, even sometimes psychosis. So would you say that these women are acting out of trauma, out of shock and trauma?
This infanticide is driven by trauma, disappointment, shock, pressure, and unexpected pregnancies. It's compounding all those rape, all that. And because this one person, the mother now carries this, it is not possible for her to deal with the baby.
And we treat these women very harshly publicly.
Why do we treat these women badly?
Yes.
Is something that we need to highlight, that we again are denying that there is a man behind. You know, even the mother of the daughter or the father chases the child out of the house. Because now my disappointment is more stronger. I've sent you to school. I've given you money. I've paid this. I've paid that. That is more prominent. Denying that and at least asking out what has happened and who is this person responsible. We don't go there. And as a result, the person is really crucified for something mostly that she is innocent, not her fault. So that's why the situation is at
So us demonizing these women really feeds into a greater viewpoint of sex that we have, perhaps. That the child and the birth, the responsibility falls on the mother's shoulders, the mother-to-be, and that the father's role is generally absent.
It's really not visible. Nobody even would really immediately, you know, when the baby is dumped, we pick the baby, we don't address where is the father. We just say where is the mother. We have to find the mother in this community who's a lactating mother, and then that mother will be traced up and picked up. So that's why I think our focus really should start to look at both people.
And yeah, and the next question is also how does the law deal with it? I know in Zimbabwe, for instance, they've got, because of the baby dumping scenario, they've got very laxed laws. If you dump your baby under a specific set of conditions or whatever, then you are allowed only up to a 5-year sentence. So it is giving mothers a bit more power. Do we have laws, safe havens laws or anything like that that's really protecting the unwed mother?
Firstly, actually, it's criminal in our country. You'll be arrested and convicted. We have some women who are in there, in prison. That tells us that you are not supposed to do that already. In having this law says you should not do that. Now, when you don't do that, where do I go when I am faced with this kind of situation? Firstly, in the Rape Act, there is an opportunity for abortion, but it's really based on medical conditions, the abortion that we are allowed. It's medical conditions, you need to be raped, and if you are raped underage, and if you're underage...
I just want to stop you. Let's just make that very clear. There are reasons that you are allowed to have a legal abortion in the country. That is if you are raped, if it's incestuous, or if you have mental disabilities and someone took advantage of you.
That's an option, but like I said earlier, this thing is concealed. Even the pregnancies, the girls conceal, as we said, so they never can. If it is found even that out, maybe it's then already 4 or 5 months, then it cannot happen. So it must be before 3 months, really, that the abortions are to be
So in order for that to be successful, we would need girls to speak out.
In order for us to help out early and have the abortions and every other thing going with that, the girls, not only the girls, but we who are guardians, parents, and society members should speak out. Because the girl, I think, thinks what has been... Some girls don't even know that they're pregnant.
Normal.
Yeah, so small as they are. So we need to be more alert for our girls. We need to be more protective. I think we should be really, really going into the mode of protecting the girls. And we need to be more critical and not accept what the men are doing. The protection of girls from sexual abuse is there. The Rape Act also says If you are 15 and under, and the person is 3 years older, then that is regarded as rape.
Yeah,
and you can't give really consent to this thing, and it's statutory. And I think people should know that the state can help you. They can stand up on your behalf and take on the case. So it's not like the case would not happen, but it's statutory also.
Let's just quickly close up. How are we as a community going to help these girls? How are we going to stop baby dumping from happening? What's the next step?
I think, please, as community, we should recognize that when such a girl is pregnant, it's not end of her life. We need to think back, reflect, and provide the support. Accept and discuss with the person and really start to trace who's the father responsible, and also bring them in and have a family dialogue around the matter.
And include that male voice.
That male voice also into the dialogue, and then see that we cannot kill life, and maybe embrace that life that is coming, and look at those possibilities to make sure that this mother-to-be is healthy, and you don't lose her as much as you don't want the pregnancy, and that you protect the baby. So I think support, and then before the baby is dumped, I think the girls should know that we must open our homes and our places where they can bring the babies, leave them there, and somebody can.
So there should be more safe havens for people who really can't deal with this child.
We are starting to educate, we're starting to look at the program where we can really bring that awareness and negotiate with the parents or grandparents or whoever is the guardian of the mother-to-be, so that they can really keep an eye on the child and keep the baby. If not, then to take the girl back into the family so that she can give birth in a very safe and friendly environment. And I think at the hospital should really be willing, like they do, if not step up and make sure that they give contraceptives, but also give the needed education. My question that I'm going out now with is, a 14-year-old, shall I give contraceptives or shall I talk?
So what messages are we sending? Thank you very much, Rosa, for your time. It was a great conversation. We'd love to hear your comments on the story, so please SMS us at 555.